The wind howled across the frozen wasteland of planet Cryo 7. Snow covered everything like a white blanket. The air was thin, cold, and full of silence. But one man walked through it, alone. His name was Reed Calder, a former rescue technician from Earth. Years ago, he had saved people. Now he just wanted to disappear. He had built a small shelter far from every outpost deep in the wild. No one came here. No one cared. That's why, when his wrist comm crackled with a signal, he froze. Urgh. Please, urgh. Help. The voice was weak, broken, female, alien. Reed stared at the comm. He hadn't heard a voice in months, maybe years. Injured, freezing, dying, it repeated. A distress call. Coordinates followed. They were less than 2 kilometers away, just past the canyon. He frowned. Could be a trap. Pirates sometimes faked signals to lure people out. Or maybe it was real. He looked outside his shelter. The snow was falling harder now. But something in that voice, so full of pain, cut through the cold. Reed grabbed his coat, goggles, and a small energy rifle. His boots crunched in the snow as he walked into the storm. The wind pushed against him like a wall. Each step was harder than the last. He climbed over frozen rocks and down into the canyon. His breath fogged up his mask and his fingers went numb. Finally, he saw something. Metal half buried in the snow. A small alien escape pod, cracked open from the side. Smoke rose from it. The emergency light blinked red. Inside was a figure. Reed ran to it. A young alien girl lay curled up inside, her skin pale blue and covered in frost. Her breathing was shallow. Blood had frozen on her neck. One arm was twisted at a strange angle. Reed jumped in and checked her pulse, weak but still there. Her eyes flickered open. She whispered one word. Please. Reed had seen hundreds of injuries in his past. He knew she would not last an hour in this weather. He had a choice. Leave her here, or carry her back through the storm. He cursed under his breath and pulled her into his arms. The walk back felt like forever. The wind was stronger now. At one point, Reed slipped on the ice and nearly dropped her, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Her head rested against his chest. Her body was cold like stone. She wasn't speaking anymore, just small breaths. Slower. Weaker. Don't die, he muttered. Not after I came all this way. Finally, he reached the shelter. The door slid open with a rusty hiss. Warm air rushed out. Reed laid her on the old cot and grabbed his med kit. He injected a heat serum into her neck. Then he wrapped her in thermal blankets and checked her broken arm. She flinched. Her eyes opened again, just for a moment. She looked at him, confused. Scared? I'm not going to hurt you, he said, his voice calm. You're safe now. She tried to speak, but no words came. Only a tear rolled down her cheek. Hours passed. Reed sat by her side, watching the monitor. Her heart rate was stable, but weak. Her body was still trying to fight the cold. He didn't even know her name. He stared at the flames in the old heater, thinking. Why had he saved her? She was alien. Unknown. Maybe even dangerous. But something in her voice, in her eyes, had made him act. He remembered the day he failed to save his last human patient. A boy, no older than 16. That failure had pushed him into isolation. Maybe this was his second chance. Suddenly the girl stirred. Her eyes opened wider this time. She looked around the room, then at him. Her lips moved slowly. Who are you? Reed leaned forward. I'm just a man. You sent a signal. I heard it. She blinked slowly. Her voice cracked. I didn't think anyone would come. Reed nodded. Most wouldn't. The girl looked at her injured arm, then at her surroundings. You saved me, she said, almost in disbelief. He gave a small nod. Still trying. She managed a faint smile. My name is Alari, she whispered. I come from the Zyra system. My ship crashed. You're lucky I found you, Reed replied. Out here, most things die alone. Ilari's smile faded. I was ready to. Reed looked her in the eyes. Not anymore. The shelter was quiet except for the soft hum of the heater and the occasional beep from the medical monitor. Outside, the snowstorm raged, but inside, there was warmth, a fragile kind of peace. Ilari opened her eyes slowly. She blinked at the unfamiliar ceiling, then at the dull yellow light above her. Her body ached. Her arm was wrapped in soft material. Her skin still felt cold. Then she remembered. The crash, the pain, and the human. Her eyes darted around the small shelter. She was lying on a cot, covered in thick blankets. Across from her sat the man who had saved her. He was asleep in a chair, his coat still on, arms folded, a rifle resting nearby. His face looked tired. Not cruel, not angry. Just tired. Ilari's hand moved to her side, searching for a weapon. There was none. She tried to sit up and gasped. The movement sent a sharp pain through her chest and arm. Her breath caught. The man's eyes opened instantly. You're awake, he said quietly. Ilari's heart raced. She backed away on the cot. Who are you? What do you want from me? Reed stayed in his chair. Calm, careful. I'm not your enemy. Name's Reed. I found you in the snow. Why did you bring me here? You were dying, he said simply. I couldn't leave you out there. Ilari stared at him, confused. You're human. Yes. Your kind doesn't help mine. Reed raised an eyebrow. And yours doesn't help mine either. Maybe that's why we're both alone. She didn't answer. He stood up slowly and poured water into a small cup. You've been unconscious for 2 days. Your body was shutting down. I gave you heat serum, stitched your arm, and tried to fix the bleeding inside. Ilari's fingers trembled as she took the cup. She drank slowly, not taking her eyes off him. Reed walked to the heater and added more fuel. Sparks rose, casting shadows on the walls. You have a name? He asked, not looking at her. Ilari, she said, softly. Of House Civ and Zyra system, he nodded. Fancy title. It used to mean something, she whispered. Not anymore. Silence filled the space for a while. Only the fire cracked softly. Then Reed asked, What were you doing out here? That escape pod didn't crash by accident. Ilari looked away, her voice dropped. I ran. From what? From people who said they were protecting me. Reed didn't push her further. He simply nodded. He understood running. He had done it too. Later that evening, Reed placed a small plate of rehydrated food near her bed. She sniffed it, suspicious. What is it? Vegetable protein. Human safe. Tastes like sand, but it'll keep you alive. Ilari hesitated, then took a bite. She winced, chewed, and swallowed. You were right. He smiled faintly. Where are we? She asked. Outpost. Sector 9G, Reed replied. Far from anything important. Just snow, ice, and silence. Why are you here? Reed leaned against the wall. His face grew serious. I used to be a rescue tech. Worked in big cities, flew medical ships, helped the wounded. Until one day I failed. Ilari looked up. He continued. A boy got trapped. Under a collapsed dome, I tried to save him, but I was too late. His father blamed me. The company blamed me. I lost everything. She didn't speak. So I came here, Reed finished, where no one could ask for help, because I had nothing left to give. Ilari watched him quietly. But you did help, she said. You saved me. Reed looked at her for a moment. I didn't plan to. And yet you did. That night, Ilari couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling and listened to the wind outside. She was in a stranger's shelter, a human's. Someone who had no reason to save her but still did. She thought of her people, of how quickly they had turned on her, of how she had begged for help and was ignored, and now here she was, alive, because of someone she was raised to fear. She looked at Reed, asleep again in the corner chair, his weapon nearby but not aimed at her. No chains, no threats, just quiet and care. Elari whispered to herself in her own language, something her mother used to say. Kindness is rare. When it finds you, hold on. And for the first time in weeks, she felt safe. The snowstorm had passed, but a thick white fog still hung over the mountains. In the early morning silence, Reed moved carefully through the trees behind his shelter. He was low on supplies, medicine, fuel, and food. He didn't want to leave Elari alone, but the trip had to be made. He reached the edge of a crashed cargo transport where he kept his hidden stash. Old gear, scraps, and useful tech scavenged from the wreck years ago. He opened the compartment door and began gathering. What he needed then, he stopped. His eyes landed on a small device blinking softly in the snow. It hadn't been there before, a tracker beacon. Reed's heart dropped. It was active. He bent down and carefully picked it up. It was alien tech, Zyra made, smooth and silver, with a pulsing red core. Somebody had placed this here. Recently. He looked around. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Back in the shelter, Elari stood by the heater, wrapped in a blanket. Her wounds were healing, but her eyes were distant, haunted. She heard the door open. Reed walked in fast, snow clinging to his boots. We need to talk, he said. She turned to him, sensing the change in his voice. He held up the tracker. This was just outside. It's Zyratech, isn't it? Her face went pale. Reed stepped closer. Who's looking? For you? She hesitated. Then with a shaky breath she spoke. They're not rescuers, they're executioners. Reed sat down, listening carefully as Elari finally told him the truth. I was part of a project. A secret one. They used orphans from the lower colonies. Like me. They experimented on us, changed our DNA, gave us gifts, powers we didn't ask for. Reed frowned. What kind of powers? Energy manipulation, memory transfer, things even they didn't understand. She looked down at her hands. But I wasn't the strongest, I was just the only one who lived. Reed's jaw clenched. They tried to kill you. She nodded. When I found out the truth, I ran. I stole an escape pod. But they tracked me. They always track us. That beacon? It means they're close. Reed stared at her, mind racing. How close? Elari looked at the blinking red dot. Close enough to kill me by nightfall. Reed stood up and began locking down the shelter. He pulled metal bars over the windows, activated the heat shield, loaded his old energy rifle. Elari watched him, silent. Then she whispered, You don't have to fight for me. He turned sharply. I know. Then why are you? Reed paused, his voice lowered. Because no one fought for me either. And I know how that feels. Elari looked away, tears building in her eyes. For years, she had been treated like a test subject, a number, a file. But here, in a cold metal shelter, a man who had every reason to walk away had chosen to stay. Hours passed. The snow outside began to fall again. Elari sat near the heater, eyes watching the door. Reed handed her a small device, something he had repaired from the wreck. What's this? She asked. A comm jammer. If they get close, this will block their short-range scans. She held it gently. You fixed it? He shrugged. I fix broken things. It's what I used to do. She smiled softly. Then maybe that's why you found me. Reed sat beside her. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was warm. But it didn't last. Suddenly, a loud beeping. The tracker flared. Red light filled the room. They're here, Ilari whispered. Reed grabbed his rifle and stepped toward the door. He turned to her, voice steady. Whatever happens, stay in the back room. Don't come out unless I call. Ilari's eyes were wide with fear. They'll kill you. Reed gave a small smile. They'll have to try. And with that, the solitary man who once walked away from the world stepped outside, ready to protect the one thing that made him feel alive again. Snow fell gently outside the shelter, but Reed's eyes were locked on the horizon. Through the fog, lights appeared, slowly blinking blue, drifting down from the sky. A transport ship, large and dark, landed quietly just a few hundred meters away, the kind used for rescue or capture. Reed aimed his rifle and lowered into cover behind a snow-crusted ridge. Then he heard the voice. We come in peace. We are here for Larry of House 7. Repeat, she is safe now. The words echoed through a small loudspeaker from the ship's side. Calm, smooth, professional. But Reed didn't move. His instincts screamed. Too easy. Too perfect. Too soon. He turned on his comm. Ilari, he whispered, we've got a ship, claiming to be from your people. There was a long pause, then her voice came through, soft and shaking. Describe it. Dark hull, blue lights, smooth edges, medical crest on the side. Another pause. That's a family cruiser, she said. It was my mother's house vessel. It's supposed to be destroyed. Reed's grip on the rifle tightened. So it wasn't a rescue. It was something worse. Then Ilari's voice broke. They used her symbol to make me trust them. Reed stood slowly as the ship ramp lowered. A figure appeared, a tall alien wearing white robes. He had kind eyes and a soft voice. I am Hevron, the man called out. We received your emergency signal. We've been looking for you, child. Come home. Ilari, against Reed's warning, stepped outside the shelter. Her body was still weak, but she walked with purpose. No, Reed called out. It's a trap, but she raised a hand. Let me see. The two stood face to face in the snow. Ilari looked at Hevron. Her eyes narrowed. You served my mother, she said. You carried her messages, her oaths. Hevron bowed slightly. I still do, and now I carry a new one. Her wish for your safe return. Ilari trembled. She died in the Zyra firestorms. That's what they told you, he said softly. But it wasn't true. Reed watched from a distance, tense. He didn't trust this. Ilari looked at Hevron. If you speak lies, I will know. He reached out gently. Come with us. We'll take you to your mother. She's alive. Her eyes filled with sudden tears. A part of her wanted to believe, to go, to run into safety, warmth, family. Maybe she had been wrong. Maybe she could go home. She took one step forward. Then, a quiet click. Reed's scope caught it, the smallest flicker beneath Hevron's sleeve. A stun baton. Ilari never saw it, but Reed did, and he fired. The blast tore through Hevron's robe. He screamed and fell back. Behind him, soldiers in dark suits jumped from the ship, armed and fast. Ilari. Down! Reed shouted. She dropped instantly. The soldiers charged. Reed ran out from cover, firing. He hit one in the leg. Another ducked. One aimed at him, but Ilari launched a burst of glowing blue energy from her palm, slamming the soldier into a snowbank. She didn't even know she had that much left in her. The soldiers hesitated, stunned by her power. That gave Reed time. He grabbed her hand. Inside. Now. They rushed back into the shelter. Reed slammed the door shut and activated the autolock. Inside, both of them gasped for breath. Ilari turned to him, eyes wide. I almost believed them. Reed nodded, panting. They nearly got you. She looked down, ashamed. I wanted it to be real. Reed placed his hand on her shoulder. That doesn't make you weak. It makes me desperate, she whispered. No, he said. It makes you human. Outside, the enemy ship lifted into the sky. They didn't try again. Not yet. But they would be back. Inside, Ailari sat by the heater, hugging her knees. They used her voice, Reed, she said softly. My mother's voice, they copied it. It sounded exactly like her. Reed didn't speak for a while. Then he finally said, sometimes the cruelest thing your enemy can give you is hope. Ailari nodded, tears in her eyes. But you didn't. Fall for it, Reed added. Not all the way. You came back? She looked at him quietly. I didn't come back, she whispered. I chose you. Reed's heart stopped for a moment, and in that moment, between two fugitives on a frozen world, something unspoken passed between them. Not romance, not promises, just something real, something worth saving. Darkness fell across the snowfields like a heavy curtain. Reed paced the shelter's narrow hallway, boots thudding softly against metal. Ailari was sleeping finally, wrapped in a blanket near the heater. She looked peaceful for the first time since he found her. But peace was always short-lived on Creo 7. Suddenly, the outer alarm beeped. 1, 2, 3 times. Then silence. Reed's blood ran cold. He rushed to the window and scanned the icy ridge. Nothing. No lights, no movement, no sound, just endless snow and the faint wind outside. He turned back toward Ailari. She was gone. The blanket was crumpled. The heater's flame flickered without her beside it. No. 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 Reed's voice cracked as he ran to the door. It was open, just slightly. The cold wind blew in, whispering that someone had been here. Someone fast, silent, and deadly. On the floor near the door lay her broken communicator, still warm. They had taken her. Reed stood alone in the snow. He looked down at the thin trail, barely, visible footprints heading toward the cliffs. He tightened his coat, checked his rifle, and whispered to himself, they took the wrong girl, from the wrong man. He followed the trail without hesitation. The path led him to an old mining tunnel, long abandoned and buried under ice. Inside, the air was sharp with the smell of fuel and iron. The lights buzzed weakly. It was quiet. Too quiet. But then he heard a voice, muffled, weak. Reed. He stepped deeper into the darkness, his rifle ready. Behind a wall of crates, he found her. Ailari, tied to a steel chair, wires connected to her skin, her head low, her body trembling. Above her stood a figure in black armor, Commander Vex, one of the project enforcers from Zyra, eyes hidden behind a visor, hands cold like death. You're too late, Vex said calmly. The extraction has begun. Reed didn't speak. He aimed and fired. The blast hit Vex in the shoulder, knocking him sideways. Ailari cried out, the shockwave surging through her. Reed rushed forward, ripping out the wires and lifting her into his arms. She was burning hot. No. Not again, she whispered. They were pulling memories, my mother's voice. You. Reed tightened his hold. I've got you now. But Vex wasn't done. Behind them, the commander stood again, blood on his armor, weapon drawn. You think you can take her and walk away? Reed turned, shielding Ailari with his body. I'm not walking, he said. He fired again, this time at the ceiling. A cascade of frozen rock came crashing down, blocking the tunnel. Snow and steel slammed into the walls. The mine shook. Reed ran through the smoke and sparks, clutching Ailari close. He didn't stop, not even when the pain in his chest grew heavy, not even when the tunnel behind him collapsed. By the time he reached the surface, the sun was rising, its pale light spreading over the icy horizon. Reed dropped to his knees in the snow, gasping. Ailari lay in his arms, breathing shallow. Stay with me, he whispered. Don't give them the end they wanted. She opened her eyes just a little. You came? Of course I did. Her hand reached up and touched his face. You always come, she said, and passed out. Reed sat there for a long time, The snow fell gently around them. He looked out across the land, empty and wild, but somehow it felt less lonely now. She was still alive, and that was enough. Back in the shelter, Reed worked through the night. He removed the remaining extraction, wires. He built a temporary stabilizer from salvage tech. Her breathing steadied, and while she slept, he sat by the heater, cleaning his rifle. He had no backup, no army, no high-tech ships, but he had one mission left in this life: protect her, always. The storm had returned. Thick snow slammed against the shelter's walls like fists. Lightning cracked across the sky above the mountain ridge, lighting the world in short, violent flashes. Inside, the small shelter flickered with low power. The heat was failing. Systems were dying, but so was Commander Vex's patience. Out in the darkness, he stood beside his ship, watching the shelter from a distance. His visor glowed red. His chest armor was scorched from Reed's earlier shot, but he was calm, too calm. He whispered into his comlink, "Seal the exits. If the girl lives past dawn, it's because I let her." Inside the shelter, Ilari gasped awake. Her eyes flew open, glowing faint blue in the dark. Her breath was shallow but faster now. The extraction process had nearly killed her. But something had changed. Her fingers crackled with leftover energy, wild, untamed. Reed was beside her in seconds. "You're awake," he said, trying to stay calm. She looked at him, her voice dry. "They're coming again." "They're already here." Reed moved to the small control panel on the wall. He pulled the last power cell from the backup locker and jammed it into place. Lights flickered on. The heater stuttered back to life. He turned to Ilari. "You need to rest." She shook her head. "No, they took something from me. Part of my mind. Memories. Names." Her hand glowed again. Bright. Uncontrollable. Reed knelt beside her. "You're burning up." "No," she whispered. "I'm waking up." The first blast hit the shelter's outer wall with a thunderous boom. The room shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Reed grabbed his rifle and stood in front of her. A second blast tore open a small hole in the corner. Through it, Vex's voice came, cold as the wind outside. "This ends now. Hand her over." Ilari tried to rise, but her body collapsed. Reed looked down at her, torn between running and fighting. Then he made his decision. He placed his hand on hers. "I told you I'd protect you." She looked up at him, scared. "You'll die." He smiled slightly. "Not before they do." The next few minutes were chaos. Vex and his team charged the entrance. Reed fired from behind cover, moving fast between crates and corners. His shots were sharp, focused. Years of training returned like instinct. He hit 2 soldiers clean. The third got close, too close. They fought hand to hand in the center of the room. Reed slammed the butt of his rifle into the attacker's jaw. But he was slower now, older, tired. The soldier tackled him. A blast of blue light exploded from behind. The attacker flew backward, unconscious. Reed turned. Ilari was standing, glowing. Her eyes were alive with energy. Her hair floated slightly. Her skin lit with a soft pulse. "I'm done hiding," she said. Reed stared at her in awe. She stepped past him, barefoot on the cold floor, and faced the opening where Vex now stood alone. His weapon raised. "I'll erase you," he growled. "Just like the others." Ilari raised her hand. "No," she whispered. "I remember now." Vex's weapon fired, but the blast never reached her. Ilari's palm glowed bright blue, forming a shield in front of her. The energy hit it and shattered like glass. Then she pushed forward. A wave of light exploded outward. Vex screamed, lifted from the ground and thrown across the ice. His armor cracked. His mask broke. He hit the snow hard and didn't get up. Silence followed. The snow still fell. The wind still howled. But the danger was over. Ilari fell to her knees. The light in her hands dimmed. Her body swayed. Reed rushed to her side and caught her before she collapsed. Her voice was weak. "Is it done?" Reed nodded. "You stopped him?" She smiled faintly. "I didn't think I could." "You didn't have to," he said. "But you did anyway." She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you." Reed looked at her gently. "You did. Just not the way I expected." Hours passed. Reed buried the attackers far from the shelter. The storm began to clear. The stars returned. Ilari rested beside the fire, finally breathing easy. Reed sat beside her, holding a mug of lukewarm tea. He stared into the flames. His mind quiet for once, she turned to him. "Why didn't you give up?" He thought about it, then said, "Because I wasn't alone anymore." The sky above Cryo 7 was finally clear. For the first time in days, sunlight touched the snow. It didn't melt it, just painted it gold. The wind had calmed. The air felt still. Inside the shelter, the war was over. But something worse now hovered. In the air, silence. Reed sat beside Ilari, who lay on the cot, pale and barely breathing. Her body had paid the price for what she did. The energy she released had saved them both, but it had burned deep into her veins. She was dying. Again. And this time, he couldn't fix it. He held her hand gently. Her pulse was slow. Her skin was cold like the day he first found her in the snow. "No," Reed whispered. "Not like this." Ilari's mind floated in darkness. She saw flashes. Her mother's voice, the cold lab, the needle, Reed's face, the fire, the light. Then something new. A soft voice, familiar, ancient. "You carry a gift." She turned toward it. It was not meant to be used for destruction. It was made to heal. Back in the shelter, Reed tried everything. Stims, heat packs, oxygen boosters. Nothing worked. Then something strange happened. A faint glow rose from Ilari's chest, soft and blue. Her lips parted and she whispered one word, "You." Reed leaned in. "I'm here." She looked at him with half-closed eyes. "Your heart is cracked." He gave a soft laugh. "That's no secret." "I can fix it," she whispered. "No," he said quickly. "You need your strength. You need to rest." But she shook her head slowly. "I was made for war, but I choose something better. One final gift. From my life to yours." Reed's voice broke. "Please don't do this." She smiled faintly. "You gave me more than rescue, Reed. You gave me something I didn't know I wanted. Time. A name. A home." Her hand touched his chest. Light flowed between her fingers and his shirt, like liquid stars. He felt warmth, deep in his bones, deeper than pain, deeper than memory. His scars, inside and out, faded. But her light was fading too. He tried to stop her. "No, don't." She smiled and whispered her last words. "You live now. For both of us." Then the light dimmed, and she was gone. Reed sat there for hours. He didn't move. The cot was empty now. No pulse. No breath. Just a quiet stillness, but no pain. His body was healed. His soul full. He walked outside. The snow crunched beneath his boots. The sun warmed his face, and something shimmered in the ice nearby. A small crystal. He picked it up. It glowed. Faint blue inside, her voice echoed, soft, alive. "This is not an end, Reed. I'm part of you now. Carry me forward." He smiled, tears falling silently. Weeks later, a ship landed near the shelter. A human rescue crew had finally responded to his old signal, one he didn't remember sending. They found him alone, but alive. He didn't speak much, but he carried the crystal always. And when they asked who he was, he simply said, "Someone who was found, the day he chose to save someone else." Years later, in a quiet city near the stars, There was a clinic, small, humble, but famous. People said the man who ran it had once been a ghost, that he had saved an alien girl in the snow, that he carried her memory in every life he healed. No signs, no logos, just one symbol carved on the wall in soft blue light, a flame inside a hand, and below it, a name, Ayalari,